Good morning, everyone. I wanted to introduce this morning the next project we're working on, which is the font design project. And for this project, you will be essentially designing a font. You will have the option, if you'd like to sign up for an account on calligrapher.com, you'll have the opportunity to actually upload your font design and actually turn it into a real font. But you're not required to. You can turn in your JPEG template, or you could turn it in as a PNG if you're working in Illustrator. But for this project, I made both a Photoshop template and an Illustrator template available. So to get started, don't forget I have the same instructions typed up for you on in Classroom. It says the font design project, and if you need some inspiration, check out dafont, dafont.com, and you can look at some fonts. But the point in this project is to create your own font design. So what I'm going to do to start is I am going to go ahead and download the templates, or I'll show you how to download the templates. I already have them open. But to download them, again, just like any of the other things that we've done so far, where you've had to download something from Classroom, you right-click, open link in new tab. So this is if you're using Photoshop. If you're using Illustrator, you can use that. But when you access it, then you will get this. And you can see the template, the way it's laid out. It should look like this. If your screen isn't showing these letters, it might be that your contrast is too low or your brightness is too high, and I can help you adjust that on your monitor. But you should see something like that when it opens up in Photoshop or Illustrator. So anyways, then you download, hit the download button there, and bibbidi bobbidi boo, it should show up down there. And you're doing that with either Illustrator or Photoshop. Now, the way this works is when it's open in Photoshop, get rid of that, you're going to see your template in front of you. And as normal, as usual, since we're working in Photoshop, you have access to the layers. Now this is if you're using the Photoshop template, of course. But what's important is that in this template, I have a layer that says design font on this layer. That's so you don't mess up the original template below. It's just a clear layer, but when you're using whatever tools you're using, if you're using a paintbrush tool, which you could actually use with the tablets, don't forget you can just check out the tablets, or you can use the shape tools, any of the different things that you've worked with so far, you can use. Now if you use a shape tool, it's going to make new layers anyways, but if you're using the paintbrush tool, make sure you're doing it on a separate layer from the background so that if you need to erase, you're not erasing the template. So anyways, you need to, when you're using this template, you need to make sure that you are using black only. It has to be high contrast from the background in order for this to work. And you'll notice there's these little registration marks. Don't mess those up if you're planning on turning yours into a font. So what you're going to do for this project is get creative, come up with your own font. It could even be your handwriting, or it could be pictures. You can make a little wingding font where when you type certain letters, a picture appears. So the point in this, of course, is to get creative. And so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and show you what to do, and then I'll show you the Illustrator template. So if I'm doing an exclamation point, I could try to do it the same way as that, but that's not really creative. So, you can use like a brush tool or whatever and create something, or you could use the shape tools. If you're using the brush tool, keep in mind you have options up here, and if you choose hardness, you're going to get a much sharper edge than if you use a softer hardness up here. So you can also change the size. One trick I'll teach you is that you can change the size on your keyboard using the left and right bracket keys, which are the ones that are just below and to the left of backspace. So if I'm doing the left one right now, I can get a thinner mark. If I go to the right, I can go really big. I can go back and make it smaller, whatever size I want. So that's essentially what you're doing with this. And then you're going to go through each of the letters. I'm going to just kind of give it a little bit more personality than, whoops, than what they have here. If I want to use the shape tools, I could do that, and I could actually make my font using those things. I could use the pen tool. If you've worked with the pen tool enough and you feel comfortable, you'd use the pen tool. And what you're going to get when you're done is your filled out font. So when you're all done with this, what you need to do if you're working in Photoshop is go to File, Save As, and as always you may want to save a copy to your documents in Photoshop format so that if you need to edit it later you can. But when you're completely done, save it as a JPEG, and I would call it something like whatever you want your font name to be. You can come up with a creative name like, I don't know, Sneezes. But I'm just going to call mine Font Jeter Example. And I'm going to save. Now another pointer I need to remind you of in here is when you're looking at this, you're looking at, there's a baseline, which is the line that the letter sits on. And if you draw below it, it might go underneath, but if you go below the bottommost line, you're going to cut off part of your letter. Also pay attention to the borders around each of these cells, because those borders, you go beyond it, it's going to cut off into the next letter. So keep that in mind. The Illustrator template is similar. You can, again, don't forget, if you're working in Illustrator, and you're using any of my tutorials, sorry guys, a bunch of things are opening up. Ideas. Okay, here we go. So if I go to the window, it's running very slow. Okay, here we go. Window, Workspace, Essentials Classic. You'll be able to get this toolbar across the top, and I'll remind you of that every time until you remember. But if I zoom in, I have the same template, and I can use the shape tools, I can use the pen tool, I can use a brush, a blob brush, any of the tools that we've worked with so far, and create my font using Illustrator. You can also use the brushes with tablets. So if you wanted to create something using those, like a pen to create a handwritten font, you could use that with, say, the blob brush or the regular brush. And if you do that, one thing you'll notice about Illustrator that I like better for this kind of project than Photoshop is that it smooths out your marks because it's vectorizing them. So even if I have a little bit slightly, chicken scratch looking handwriting, it's going to make it look a little bit prettier. So when I'm all done creating my font design in here, I just go to File, Export, not Save As. You might want to save a copy in your documents as a AI file so you can edit it, just like I said with Photoshop, but the end game is you're going to export, export as, and you're going to make sure it's a PNG file. You're going to click Use Artboards, so it uses this full artboard, saves that out as a PNG file. So I'll call mine, whatever, Jeter Illustrator font example, whatever. And when you hit export, it will save it as a PNG. You'll click OK on all the other default things. And then you can either turn that stuff into Classroom and your project's done, or you can go to calligrapher.com, which I have linked in Classroom. And you go to Calligrapher and go to, you'll have to register if you want to do this. You just go into Get Started for free, and they'll have a registration thing. You can put your @students.leeschools.net email address. Problem is, actually you can't do that because your email address will have to be confirmed, and you won't be able to do that. So you'll have to use a different email address other than your @schools.leeschools.net address, because your email address doesn't have access to outside email. So it'll get sent, but it'll bounce. But if you do it to like a Gmail address or Yahoo or whatever you use that is not your school address, then you can confirm it and turn yours into a font. I actually already have a account on here, and what you do when you get in here is you go to My Fonts, and then you go to Upload Template, and you go to Choose Fonts, and then locate your font design. So mine, I didn't do a whole font. I'll pull up my Illustrator one. It's got a little bit more, but when I go to find it, it should be in my documents. So if I look for, I think I called it what, Jeter Illustrator font or Illustrator. What did I call it? I'll go by date modified. There we go. Font Jeter example. I had my Illustrator one too. I probably didn't save into my documents. I need to redo that. Export as, yeah, I went to my downloads. Again, make sure you're saving to your documents. Don't do what I just did. So I just need to go back into here and go to downloads and then locate my font, which I called Jeter Illustrator. I'm going to details and I'll do it by dates. There you go, Jeter Illustrator font, upload template. And they'll have a thing that says automatically clean templates. You might as well. It'll get rid of little excess marks you might have accidentally made that are really tiny and would not show up in a font anyways. Oh, let me try this again. Actually, let me go to, I'll do upload template, create a template. I might not have had enough letters in there. Might not have liked it, but I'll try my Photoshop one and see what happens. So if I go to My Fonts, upload template, choose file, and locate my font Jeter example, go to upload template, give it a second. You'll see what letters you've done. You can go to build a font. Let me do this again. Sorry guys. Choose file, font Jeter example, upload template, give it a second. You should see your letters in there. Add characters to your font. Sorry, I missed that step. Then when you go to build a font, it's going to give you an option to come up with a name so you can get creative. Jeter letters. I don't know. But then when you click build, then it's going to pop up a new window that has a TTF and an OTF. Both of these are font formats that we can use on our computer. And when you click on that, it will download it. You can upload that to Classroom if you'd like, if you decide that you wanted to actually create a font. But when you open it, in order to use it on your computer, you're going to have to click on the actual font, open it, and install it. And you'll notice that any letters on mine that I didn't do, it replaces with a default, like kind of boring font. But you can see my characters that I made right there. So if I click install now, that will appear. I'm not going to do it because I don't want this garbage font, but that's how you do it. Alright, so that is the project, and I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of a fun one for me. I really like doing this one. Sometimes I get creative and do like little pictures and make a wingding font, but you have options. I want you to enjoy this project though. So have a good rest of your day.